2024 is the year of Atlus for JRPGs. Persona 3 Reload, SMT5 Vengeance, and now Metaphor Refantazio. That is a holy trinity of releases in 1 year. And if anything, this entry had the hardest task, because it had to follow two of the biggest releases of the year while at the same time showing it could stand among them. Dare I say it, I think it's the best of the three. I'm blown away by this game. Studio Zero, a creative wing headed by alumni from games like Persona 5, have shown that they have still got that magic touch. And all I can say is, bravo. Bravo. I raise my glass to you and doff my hat if I had one. I was fortunate enough to be offered a PC code for Metaphor Refantazio. I want to thank Sega for providing it and sponsoring the video. I'm sure you're aware that the game has already launched on the likes of Xbox, PlayStation and PC, so don't miss it. And I say that because since the point of installation, I have not been able to pull myself away from it. These are the releases we wait for. These are the ones that make all that patience worthwhile. I'll say it right now, Metaphor Refantazio is worth every penny. It is a must-play JRPG of 2024 and quite likely will be a shoo-in from any top 10 list come the end of the year, including mine. And in this video, I want to tell you exactly why it deserves that praise. Metaphor Refantazio takes place in the United Kingdom of Uchronia. The land is in chaos following the assassination of the king, and no heir is present to take his place. As such, the new king will be chosen by the people, and various candidates go out on a journey to gain the favour of the populace, including our self-insert protag. Now, I don't want to delve too heavily into the events that follow, as you only get to experience a story once. All I'll say is that I liked it a lot. The message is clear, it's explored in varying ways, the internal politics and conflicts are well defined, and it flows very well for my tastes. So not much wrong on that front. I also have to give real props to the world building. For me, this is where the game trumps its contemporaries. If you gave me the choice of modern day Tokyo, apocalyptic Tokyo, or the United Kingdom of Uchronia, I'm picking Uchronia 9 times out of 10, and that's not because it shares United Kingdom with my place of birth. It's refreshing to play in an actual medieval fantasy setting, especially one as fleshed out as this. You've got a massive compendium of terms that gradually updates over time, well-realised locales, and it's all brought together by a superb art direction, both in terms of the in-game cutscenes and indeed the animated ones too. It uses the same engine as Persona 5, which does look a bit outdated now, I will concede, but there's no doubt Metaphor captures the fantastical feel. You'll see whimsical particle effects in the environments, and the lands themselves look otherworldly. Yet in the same breath, I do have to say that the PC port wasn't the greatest during my own playthrough. I got the odd frame dip in certain areas and it pushed my build a bit more than I was expecting considering the recommended specs, but a patch did release while I was playing which seemed to fix up some issues, and in addition, it's been confirmed to me directly that a patch is due out on release day 2. I expect some of you guys who are playing the PC version have seen it yourselves. Anyway, back to the world building. This is where I want to highlight one of the biggest surprises of the game, the Gauntlet Runner. This is basically your transport from area to area, but the intrigue of it comes in that you do not simply fast travel from point to point. You can fast travel, but only to main cities you have visited before. But for your first visit, you must make the trek in the Gauntlet Runner. Now this can take anywhere from a day to 4 days at a time, and you simply spend that time doing other stuff while you wait to get to your destination. I was apprehensive when I first heard about this, but it's actually a well-realised mechanic. Not only does it give you downtime to build up your character's parameters split into 5 different areas in this game, but it also gives you time to prepare food items, deepen follower bonds and so on. But no doubt my favourite part about it came in just watching the scenery gradually shift from day to day. For instance, you start in a forest, but you'll eventually end up in marshlands before you reach port further south. It brings the world to life, and even better is that sometimes you'll get out of the runner to take in one of the many spectacular sights of the land. You can't actually go into them, it's basically a pre-rendered image and nothing more, but they've got something magical about them, a feeling I can't really put into words. It's small moments like these that allow the world of Metaphor Refantazio to come to life. Import is put on the world building as much as it has on the story and gameplay. It's really good. Same can be said of the characters too, a great cast all said and done. One thing that really struck me was the chemistry between the group. There's been real effort to make them feel like a team, and the dialogue is strong in relation to that. I wouldn't say they fall into tropes per se, but they have clear characteristics that are played on and explored as the story progresses. The stories of said characters are told through specific arcs tied to each of them, linked to their follower rank. Just like in Persona, you can talk to characters in order to raise their bond, and the further you raise it, the better the rewards. For example, some will allow you to cook meals without consuming any time, while others will provide discounts at stores or bonuses for bounty rewards. If nothing else, they're certainly worth pursuing for the later archetypes they unlock. Now, archetypes are the manifested strength of heroic spirits that the characters can draw upon to enact their will. They're split into various classes and they all learn a range of skills as they level up. This is yet another parallel to Shin Megami Tensei or Persona. No doubt any person who has played a Mega 10 game will see the familiarity. Each archetype has elemental weaknesses, you can call on a wide range of them, and they all inherit skills. Even so, this is one such case where Metaphor Refantazio has that root in familiarity, but in the same breath stands on its own 2 feet. One of the big draws of this game is that every character can use every archetype. The only limit to this system is the imagination of the player. It effectively gives you a customization sandbox to build each character the way you want. The only concession is that you can't choose skill points for the followers, only for the pro tag. But otherwise, you are in full control, and it is wonderful. In some cases, it might even feel overbearing. You're given so much to work with that it can be easy to fall into that trap of analytical paralysis. But I think the game subtly gives hints as to how you should allocate your time and experience. You'll periodically get quests that will point you to a specific archetype, or you'll get hints telling you what archetypes would be most useful in a particular dungeon. Of course, you don't need to follow this, you can do things however you want, but having a balance of archetypes that complement each other and then enriching them with a host of inherited skills from other archetypes just makes the gameplay tick, especially when you have to consider the balance of the team as a whole. It's not all good, mind you. I will say that switching archetypes can be a pain. You have to go into one of the sub-menus to do so. I would have liked something a bit more slick in retrospect, considering how many times you'll be doing it, but that's a small concession. In that same mould, I'll also say that equipping items can be a chore too. For instance, an accessory in your backpack is going to tell you how many you have and how many are equipped to other characters, but it doesn't tell you who is holding onto it unless you try to remove it. Just having the character portraits next to the item would be a visual benefit to make this simpler to manage. But again, it's a small concession and you do get used to it. Now moving back to the gameplay, the structure of Metaphor has clearly borrowed from Persona. In fact, this is one reason why it took me a little bit of time to latch on to this game. I may be singing its praises now, but not so much in the first 5 hours or so. It did feel familiar. It operates on a calendar system and you generally have a set number of days to complete your main task. This normally involves going into some sort of dungeon to advance the plot, but in the lead up to that, you have time to do side quests, talk to followers and stock up on items. Every day has a structure where you can do something in the day and something in the night before the calendar moves on, and total freedom is given to the player to choose what they want to pursue. On the surface, it feels the same, but when I started to delve deeper into what the game was all about, it more than stood out in its own way, and the more I played, the more I came to love it. For one, Metaphor Refantazio is a game that prides itself on preparation and forethought. One of the most important mechanics in this game is the informant. As you discover new lands surrounding the main hub, the informant will sell you information in regards to the enemies you may face in a dungeon or special items that can only be found in a region. The bosses in particular are a highlight, as the information given could tell you, for example, to kill the enemies at the same time lest they respawn. Naturally, you can go in blind if you really want to, but the option is there for the player if they would prefer to have that knowledge beforehand. Another really interesting mechanic is the weather. There are forecasters in the main towns and they will tell you what the weather will be like up to 3 days into the future. Now, weather is important because it ultimately defines how strong the enemies will be. In rain or thunder, the enemies will be stronger and you'll also not be able to utilise a press turn, while in dry or sunny weather they'll operate as normal. As such, if you want an easier time of it, you plan around the good weather, but if you want a challenge and to gain more experience, then you go down the other route. Risk and reward at its finest. That's not all though. Certain days will see items go on sale, so that becomes a good time to stock up on consumables, buy equipment and so on. It's just very good in the lead up to the actual dungeon crawling sections. Now when you do eventually decide to tackle a dungeon, you'll be confronted with this hybrid combat approach. You have an action focused mode where you can dodge and beat down an enemy till you break their posture, and then go into squad mode, which is your standard turn-based affair. The turn-based mode clearly makes up the majority of the gameplay, but as a package, it is fantastic, and I never got bored of it during my entire playthrough. What the action style allows for is that trash mobs aren't a nuisance. If they're a significantly lower level than you, then they just die instantly, but you still get the experience. It ensures that you're not wasting time and resources on the smaller enemies and saving it instead for the more important encounters like the bosses. Very welcome when MP retention is so important. You can still use squad mode if you really want to, but the choice is still there. That decision ultimately falls with the player, as it always does. Now the squad battles are where you'll see the most challenge and mechanical depth. It's a press turn system, focus on weaknesses and get another stab at the pie. You've seen it before, I'm sure, if you played a Mega 10 game. Saying that, enemies can wipe the floor with you if you're not prepared. Again, just like any other Mega 10 game. But who cares? This style of combat is fantastic, it always has been. It's fast, it depends massively on player input, and it never gets old no matter how many hours you put in. Still, Metaphor Refantazio does have a mechanic of its own that is really cool, which are the synthesis skills. This is when two archetypes come together to unleash a unique ability, and while they are powerful, they cannot be spammed, because not only does it use up 2 turns, but it also uses the MP of both characters who partake. So you need to be mindful of using it liberally, lest you find yourself at a disadvantage in the later stages. The synthesis skills are really cool though, because each archetype will have their own list of available options but can only use them when paired up with a certain lineage. For example, the Knight can only use their high damage pierce ability when a warrior is in the party with them, once again drilling home that idea of customization and freedom. Like I say, I never got bored of this, and it helps too that the music is top tier. Shoji Meguro is just a wizard, he's done it again. If you liked his previous works, you'll most likely enjoy the OST on offer here too, even with how different it is to his other scores. The dungeons themselves, they're fine. They're nothing egregious, yet nothing special at the same time. A few hidden passageways here and there, shortcuts that open up, and easy enough puzzles to work around. I'd say the biggest satisfaction I got from dungeons were from the treasures you find. Because of the sheer amount of archetypes you have, it's always fun to find a new weapon or armor piece in these dungeons rather than just the staple consumables. But no doubt, it is the combat that will keep you going into these dungeons. It is very well done. In short, the game overall is well done. Like I say, if I had to choose from one of the 3 Atlus games that released this year, I'd have to give the crown to Metaphor Refantazio, not only for how fresh it felt, but also for its high level of polish. No doubt SMT and Persona share that stamp of quality too, but Metaphor Refantazio is just fresh. It's a new frontier for Atlus, spearheaded by their new creative wing of Studio Zero. If this is what they're capable of doing, I can't wait to see what their next project will be. Atlus have found their third pillar franchise, if they so choose to expand on this. Metaphor Refantazio is just a must-buy JRPG of 2024. It is available to purchase as of today on Xbox, PlayStation and PC, and I'm gonna say it to all of you right here and now. Do not miss out on this one. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe for more JRPG content, and consider joining my Patreon if you're interested. Peace.